we need to ask questions and look for unusual solutions. And so if we can think about what's coming next and question, why do we do things this way? Why don't we do things, some other way? We can have a lot more preparation in the future in all situations.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the KTS Success Factor podcast for women, where we talk about challenges senior female leaders face in being happy and successful at work. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah E. Brown. My guest today is Dr. Diane Hamilton. She is the founder and CEO of Tonerra and co-founder of DIMA Innovations, which are consulting and media-based businesses. She is a nationally syndicated radio host, keynote speaker, and the former MBAProgram Chair at the Forbes School of Business. She's authored multiple books which are required in universities around the world, including Cracking the Curiosity Code, The Key to Unlocking Human Potential. She is the creator of the Curiosity Code Index Assessment, which is the first and only assessment that determines the factors that inhibit curiosity. Her groundbreaking work in the area of curiosity helps organizations improve innovation, engagement, and productivity. Thinkers 50 Radar chose her as one of the top minds in management and leadership. Her work has been endorsed by some of the most respected names in leadership, including Steve Forbes, Keith Kroc, Ken Fisher, Dave Ulrich, and Vern Hoddish. She is a highly sought-after keynote speaker who has shared the stage with top speakers including Marshall Goldsmith, Martha Stewart, Damon John, Travis Bradbury, and Jeffrey Hazlett. She's been featured on Forbes, Inc., Investors Business Daily, First for Women, Investopedia, SHRM, International Institute for Learning, International Coach Federation, HR Virtual Summit, Flourish U App in association with Reid Hoffman, Cross Knowledge in association with Wiley, Training Industry, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. Welcome, Diane.
Well, thank you. It sounds like a lot.
It does sound like a lot.
But it's really nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Sarah.
Well, this one is going to be very interesting, and I'm sure my audience is going to be really fascinated with what you have to say. So tell me about what the biggest challenges your clients face in business today, and what are some of the symptoms of that challenge?
Well, right now we're talking about a different time of challenges for everybody. And I just got off a summit of small business owners who are facing all kinds of unique challenges. People are dealing with perseverance and trying to find ways to just get past what we're going through. But I want to talk about this in a general way, because we all will get back to normal someday after this virus, gets better for everybody. And I help men and women develop their levels of curiosity in their employees and themselves. And I think that that's a huge area that people struggle with in terms of status quo thinking that leads to complacency and not moving forward in some of the things that they could develop. I mean, curiosity is the spark to innovation, to drive, to motivation, to you name it, a host of other factors that they're trying to solve in the business realm. And, everybody sometimes, that you get into this thought that if everybody's in agreement that that's a good thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing, because we need to ask questions and look for unusual solutions. Right now, I think people are recognizing that this is really important more than any other time, because we've run into a problem that nobody really had the foresight to see, other than maybe Bill Gates, if you watched his TED Talk,
right,
foreseeing this kind of thing. And so if we can think about what's coming next and question, why do we do things this way? Why don't we do things, some other way? We can have a lot more preparation in the future in all situations. you mentioned symptoms, and to me, symptoms really you have a group of people that just don't ask questions. They aren't pursuing anything other than going along with what everybody else has done. I give a lot of talks where I talk about status quo thinking and give an example from a research study where they looked at how people go along with status quo thinking. And they had a woman go into a doctor's office making her think she was getting an eye exam, but it was really filled with actors all in on this experiment where they kept ringing a bell every couple minutes, and everybody in the room around her would stand up and sit down without explanation when the bell went off. And she would look around and think, what's everybody doing? But she doesn't say anything, of course, because she doesn't want to be the one that doesn't do it. So after just 3 times with the bell going off, she gets up and sits down with them. And they eventually take everybody out of the room as if they're getting their eyes examined to see what she'll do by herself. And she still gets up and sits down with the bell. And then they add people to the room who are real patients to see what they'll do. And after she stands up and sits down, the guy next to her asked her why she did that. She said, well, everybody else is doing it. I thought I was supposed to. So what do you think he does the next time the bell rings? They said, everybody gets up and sits down at work right now. Unfortunately, we don't know why. Just in our minds, we think we're supposed to do these things. And that's status quo thinking. And I think that that's a huge problem that everybody needs to deal with.
So let me just calibrate here for my listeners. We are recording this right in the middle of the coronavirus problem in the United States, where a significant portion of us are sequestered at home. So that's what Diane was referring to. And I want to just make a comment around this status quo thinking. I used to do a lot of process improvement work in corporate America, and we would always get to a step that we would look at it and say, why are we doing this? And the answer was, well, we've always done it this way. Well, does anybody use this step? I have no idea. We've just always done it this way. And that's a perfect example of the status quo thinking that you were talking about.
Right.
So before big organizations or corporations work with you on this, what is the biggest mistake they make?
I think they wait too long to do something about things. Oftentimes, they know they want to be innovative. They know they have problems with engagement. They know they have certain issues, but they don't even know where to start. And by the time they get to me, a lot of times they're just starting from scratch. They're just like desperate to get to the point of, we need to change our culture. The CEO has to buy into the need for this change, though, and that's a huge part. It's very hard to change culture from the bottom up. So usually the people who come to me have realized this, and they're buying into the need to embrace curiosity, for example, in their organizations. And they're ready to emulate what they want to see. The people who don't come to me are the ones that have the problem that they don't recognize a lot of times that they need to develop these skills. And then the people who work for them end up quitting or being disengaged at work. And we know from Gallup's survey, we've got, spending over $500 billion a year due to lack of engagement. And if you look at this, of how important this is, of why they need to consider, getting out and getting help soon, think of curiosity. Let's just look at it like in a everyday scenario. Let's look at it like baking a cake, okay? So let's say you're going to bake a cake. That's your end output that you want. So you're going to take the ingredients of flour and oil and eggs and whatever it is, you're going to mix together your ingredients, and you're going to put it in the pan, and then you're going to put it in the oven. And then what happens? Well, if you didn't turn on the oven, nothing happens, right? You get goo, you don't get cake. And in corporate America, if their end output instead of cake, what they're trying to accomplish is productivity or more money, right? And, input is money usually. And you're taking the ingredients of engagement, innovation, all the things that they know are important ingredients, and you're mixing it together, but nobody's turning on the oven. Nobody's lighting the spark of curiosity. And we've found out, I've had so many people on my show, as you mentioned, I have a radio show and I interview top leaders from everywhere, from Harvard professionals to, billionaires. And they all say that curiosity is the spark to all these things. So I think some of these things are intuitive to some extent, but that people just don't quite remember to plug in the oven to turn on the spark. You know what I mean? They realize that they got to put it in the oven, but they haven't gotten to the very foundational aspect of what they need to do.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit more about the index, the assessment that you developed?
Yes, I'd be happy to. It's called the Curiosity Code Index. And I was very honored that Thinkers 50 Radar just announced that it's on the innovation minds to watch list this year, which is really, really an honor for me, because this is the first and only assessment ever that determines the factors that inhibit curiosity. And the reason I created this assessment was I started to write a book about curiosity. And I thought, well, I got to figure out how to fix this, right? So how do you fix it? I started to look for the assessments that determine what stops it. And I'm thinking, well, where are they? And there weren't any. So I thought I need to create my own. And so I hired people, you know, from Harvard and Pepperdine, talked to all these people. And eventually I realized, you know, this was really very complicated thing to do. It took me years of research, lots of fun factor analysis and all the joy that goes along with that. And found out that there are 4 factors that inhibit curiosity. And it's the acronym of FATE, which is FATE, and that stands for fear, assumptions, which is really the voice in our head, what we tell ourselves, technology, the over or under reliance of it, and environment. So basically everybody we've ever come into contact with in our life. And so I give this Curiosity Code Index to organizations. You and I had talked before, Verizon and Novartis and different companies are looking at my work with curiosity for their corporations, because I think they value, you know, what we talked about, how this ties into all these things. So what the Curiosity Code Index does is it's like taking a Myers-Briggs, an emotional intelligence, a DISC, you know, any of those tests that people all taken, that you get a 26-page report of all these things you can overcome. It really tells you what holds you back, and so you can move forward. And it's very helpful for creating personal action plans. And we can also, when they go through training, they can learn to do corporate action plans. And so I train consultants as well as HR professionals to be able to give this as well as I give it.
Interesting. Can you extrapolate it to corporate, to the big organization, or is it primarily an individual assessment?
No, well, actually, individuals all take it. And then within the corporate setting, when we train the individuals to understand their results, just like you would if you train the DISC or something else, we go through 2 exercises where they work on creating their own action plans for their individual issues. And then we go to the employees in the training to get overall input to give to leadership for the overall corporate action plan.
Got it.
I took that from a page book from Disney, had a lot of turnover in their laundry division at one time. And they were just losing people left and right. And as glamorous as it sounded to fold sheets and iron, it's not that wonderful, even at Disney. So they were losing all these people. So they went to their employees and they asked them, you know, what can we do to make your job better? Assuming they're going to get things they can't even fix, right? But they didn't. They got things that were really helpful, like put an air vent over my workstation, or make my table go up and down so my back feels better, or, you know, just little things. And that's what I did with the Curiosity Code Index, is that you're going to these employees and you're getting this feedback. And then the trainer, if it's me or their HR or their consultant, whoever's doing the training, creates this all-around action plan that they bring back to leaders, and you're getting it just like Disney did, from the horse's mouth, basically.
Right.
Here's all the things we need to be more curious, to be better and more productive.
Very interesting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Can you point my listeners to one free and actionable tip that you can share with them to help them understand curiosity better?
Well, I think right now we have a lot of time on our hands, you know, and I think it's important to write down the things that, why we do things the way we do and why we don't do things differently. And I mentioned those 4 things of fear, assumptions, technology, and environment. And whether they take the assessment or not, they can write down some things in those areas. What things do you not talk about in your meetings or as a leader or whatever position you're in that you feel like it'll make you look dumb? And, you know, I think a lot of people, leaders, are always worried that they're going to look like they don't know as much as they're supposed to know. But when you emulate what you want others to act like, you really can open them up to doing what you need them to do. So tell them, hey, I don't know the answers to everything. This is what I normally wouldn't ask, but, you know, and you set the stage for them to get over their fear of asking. And the same thing for assumptions. What are you telling yourself you're not interested in or you don't want to look into because it didn't work in the past? Or what, we have all these voices in our heads. And with technology, how are you over or underutilizing it? Do you have days where you could maybe explore some depth behind how the technology works? Because some people would maybe be great math whizzes if they didn't just have a calculator, if they knew how the math worked behind it. And then other days, find out how all these amazing programs are out there, how you could use them. And for environment, consider who's impacting how you and your employees are behaving in certain situations. It might not be your employee's current boss that's bothering them, but maybe a couple bosses back said something that made them think they could never ask a question or explore another area. It could be their teacher, their family, their friends, the social media. There's all these things. And that's why I cover all these things when we do the training, because once you focus on these things and write them down, you can create an action plan to move forward.
That is very cool. And those are really good self-assessment questions. I like that. And now is a really good time to take the time to think about them too. Would you like to point the audience to some resources where they can learn more about this?
Well, you can go to my website at drdianehamilton.com, but you can also go to curiositycode.com to go straight to the training and all of that. If you're interested in maybe becoming certified to give the Curiosity Code Index, they give 5 hours of SHRM recertification credit from SHRM for going through the training, which you can do virtually right now, which is kind of nice since nobody can go places, and you get that out of the way. And then when you go back to work, you can be all certified. But if you go to developcuriosity.com, you can get a free copy of a training manual so you can see the kinds of things that we do in training the Curiosity Code Index, and I'm happy to give that away. But in terms of following me on social media, I'm at Dr. Diane Hamilton, with just DR for the doctor part.
That is awesome. What question should I have asked you that I didn't? And when you tell us what that question is, would you answer it? Or what the question is, would you answer it also?
Well, I think a lot of people are curious about what happens to curiosity, and what happened with our age, and did we all have it? What happens as we age? And I think, some of it I answer with the FATE factor, but if you look at it, we're all born naturally curious. We have the curiosity gene. The Max Planck Institute coined that term. And even birds, animals, everybody's got it. If you were a bird and you're looking at a bush for berries and it runs out of berries and you're not curious to look at the next bush, you're kind of out of luck, right? So we have to explore. But what's great about curiosity is it develops so much within us, as I mentioned, but it also releases dopamine, so you'll feel better. And right now, everybody is so cooped up and not feeling that great. And it's just, explore your curiosity other than just binge watching Netflix or anything else. This is a time for people to really get curious about things that you never were curious about in the past, and just explore, read a different section of the newspaper, try it, taking a class. There's so many free online things you can do, and just take a look at some of the things that have happened to your levels of curiosity in the past, because we know at age 5 we peak. And then as we get into our adulthood, it really dramatically declines. I think a couple really great TED Talks to watch are Sir Ken Robinson's TED Talk on how education has killed creativity, which is similar to curiosity in some respects. And George Land did some great research in that area as well, looking at NASA and how kids are creative geniuses at the age of, I think, 5, and then 98% are creative geniuses, and by the time they're 31, it's like 2%. So watch some of these things, learn a little bit about this, look at the value of all this, and just become more curious.
About curiosity.
About curiosity.
That is really cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been really educational.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it, and great questions.
Thanks for listening to the KTS Success Factor podcast for women. If you like what you are hearing, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate us, and leave a review. And if you would like more information on how we can help women in your organization to thrive, then go to www.sarahebrown.com. You can sign up for our newsletter, read show notes and learn more about our podcast guests, read my blog, browse through the books, or contact us for a chat. Goodbye for now.